What is up, everyone? Welcome to another buy and sell video. This time we're looking with obviously a very quick deadline coming, game week 27, and in this video we're going to be looking at Morgan Rogers replacements. So we're basically only looking at midfield options. If you're looking for striker options, have a look at last week's video. I think the same thing applies from last week's video as well for striker options. The same targets. Nothing really has changed. Midfield, there are a few changes compared to Amad Diallo replacements we discussed last week. But if you're again looking for Amad replacements, Rogers replacements, we'll have a look in this video. Now, I did say watch last week's video, but I'll give you a quick highlight of the forwards we spoke about in the last week's video. We mentioned Cunha, Beto, Marmoush, Wissa, Mateta, and Chris Wood. Still think they are all still very relevant strikers and still the strikers that you probably want to look at trying to get in if you're looking for a striker for this week. Now, last week, in terms of Amad Diallo replacements, we mentioned Mitoma, Dango, Waneri, and Minte. Now, along with Amad replacements, still, if anyone's still looking, or even like Morgan Rogers replacements, or any other midfield replacements, I think from this list, I will remove Dango now, because the reason being Evan Nilsson is back, and that also could have an effect on where Dango plays, or how many minutes he gets. Obviously, Zabani got shown a red card, so he's going to be out for at least 2 games. That means that there is a possibility Dango could play at wing back as well, if that happens. And in that case, that's not what you really want. You kind of want him in the forward spot and not like in a wing back spot. So Dango is out of this list in terms of the watch list for replacements, for midfield replacements. Waneri, I still think is not a bad option at the money at 4.6. But like I said in the last video, Mitoma and Minte, both I prefer better. Obviously, Minte got a return this week. Mitoma obviously also got a return. So it's good to see that the players that were mentioned, at least some of them got returns. Now, to this list, I will be adding a few more midfielders that you could look to get. And one of the ones that I would mention would be Jarrod Bowen. Obviously, 10 points against Arsenal. Chelsea also, he got 10 points. Brentford, nothing, unfortunately. But he's got Leicester, Newcastle, and Everton alongside Wolves in Game Week 30. 4 decent fixtures, I would say. He should be on pens for this week, if not at least for next week as well, because Paqueta is out injured. So because of that, Bowen should be the guy on pens for the moment. And I mean, Leicester are there for the taking. They are, at this moment, I think the worst defense, or one of the worst defenses. So minutes per XG conceded, Leicester are in the bottom half of the table. Bottom 6, actually, to be honest. So they are for the taking. If you didn't see, obviously, the Brentford game. Mbeumo did well from the right-hand side. Bowen occupies somewhat of a similar area alongside with like up front as well. So should be a good option for this week and for the next couple of weeks as well. Newcastle, Everton, Wolves, all games which Bowen could score from. Now, apart from him, which I will add to the watch list, so we keep track of this, and when we do the next video, we can kind of have a look back as well. People are buying Aston Villa players. I wouldn't go there because they do blanking Game 29 unless you're free hitting. Even if you were free hitting, I still wouldn't really target any of the Aston Villa players at this moment. I mean, Palace, Brentford, Brighton, Forest, not the best set of fixtures I think you can find elsewhere. We did mention Mitoma. Now, do we talk about Bruno Fernandes? Now, I had Bruno and I sold Bruno because I was annoyed with the lack of decent enough returns. And I didn't think it was worth it at the price. Obviously got a 10-pointer. Kinda lucky. Man United is still a horrible in terms of attack. But they play Ipswich and Leicester in the next 3, along with Arsenal at home. Is it decent as a short-term punt? I don't still like it, honestly. Now, I know this is a huge gap between going from Morgan Rogers or Amad to a Bowen and Bruno is not easy. I'm assuming people are getting some cash from their assistant manager as well, so that should give you a bit more cash to play around with. But so I'm just trying to target a wider midfield audience as well because of that, compared to looking at very like cheaper options. But Bruno Fernandes, I mean, if you really wanted to punt on someone, and you wanted to go, okay, Ipswich and Leicester, then maybe, but I don't really like it, to be honest. So I'm not going to add this to the watch list because I just don't like United's attack at the moment. And if you look at Man United's attack, it's in the last 4 game weeks, it's in relegation form, the attack. So I can't really recommend Bruno Fernandes. Even though, if you were to look at the midfield options, Bruno Fernandes, in terms of midfielders, he's not even on this list for chances created. Like I've sorted this by XGI in the last 4 game weeks. Is he on this one? No, he is at the bottom over here. So not looking great. I can't really recommend, even though the fixtures are good. I just don't trust Man United's attack too much. I could be a bit negative on that, but yeah, let me know in the comments. Now this is another punt for those of you who might be like, I don't have that much of budget. Can't really go Bowen. Can't really go Bruno Fernandes. Do some more reasonably affordable after assistant manager prices as well. Like you get a bit more cash. Chelsea. Now, Chelsea have Southampton and Leicester. Neto played decent pretty well at the start of the Aston Villa fixture. There were positive comments from Maresca as well from his recent press conference, and he did suggest that there's a possibility of playing Neto at the striker spot because obviously no Jackson, and Nkunku is pretty shit at that spot as well. So Neto could be an out of position player for these next 2 games. It's not a bad punt as well. Southampton, Leicester, one of the worst defenses. Both of them are one of the worst defenses that you could get. 6.2 million. I think this is definitely worth a punt. Keep in mind, however, Arsenal in 29 is not an easy fixture, but the next 2 are pretty good. And if you're looking for a very short-term punt, Neto could be your guy if you wanted to go there. I don't have enough faith in Chelsea just yet, but it may be worth a punt. However, I would still rate a Bowen slightly higher than a Neto at this moment, just because of reliability factor. I'm able to rely more on a Bowen because he's done well for me in the past compared to, let's say, a Neto. I haven't owned Neto before, but looking at Chelsea right now, can't really trust him. Next, but we'll add them on the list. Now, Enzo, I'm not going to add because I prefer Neto over Enzo if you were to pick one. Bournemouth lads, we did mention in the last video, so we're not going to touch on it again. And then obviously, one more to add to this list would be the Brennan Johnson. Now, he did come back, got some minutes, started the game, 63 minutes, got subbed after that, but had a pretty good impact, 14 points. I'd say that's pretty good. He should start against City as well. He's been one of Spurs' best players this season, honestly, in terms of goal returns and all. City have obviously looked pretty shocking in defense. If you've seen the last couple of games of City, I think they can be got at in this game as well from the wide wing areas, and Brennan Johnson could be a part of that. So definitely a punt. Definitely a punt. Bournemouth and then Fulham after that aren't the most easiest of defenses to play against as well, so keep that in mind. And there might be some rotation with Europa League as well, so not the best of options that I like. But when he's on form, he sometimes tends to go on like a streaky patch of form, like a decent streaky rate as well, like 6, 10, 8, even here 7, 11, 7. So if you can catch that form, then you're looking good. But fixtures aren't the best, but I should mention because generally Spurs tend to do well against City. So I thought I'd mention that. Elanga, obviously tough fixtures at the moment, so I wouldn't touch. I'd probably avoid, but the players I mentioned, I think Jarrod Bowen, Mbeumo, if you don't already have Mbeumo, I think kind of would want him in. He's talisman for Brentford. They're doing pretty decently as well. Good fixture against Everton. I don't mind Mbeumo as well. So yeah, Bowen, Bruno Fernandes, I'd suggest Mbeumo as well if you don't have him. And Pedro Neto are my additional suggestions. Did I add Neto to the watch list? Yes, I did. Those are my additional suggestions, obviously, for this week as a Morgan Rogers replacement. Hunty ones, like I said, Brennan Johnson, Bruno Fernandes. I think I should. The thing is, I don't like Bruno Fernandes in terms of like Man United's attack, but the fixtures are there, and you'd assume he'll get something from Ipswich and Leicester. But that's basically it. Damsgaard, Rashford, Asensio, I don't think I'd go for any of them, even though like they've been okay, but with the blank and all upcoming, I wouldn't look at getting any of them. But that's basically it. Make sure to let me know what transfers you're looking to make it. From the team selection video I did, I saw a lot of people looking for forward and midfield replacements. So these are obviously my midfield replacements video if you want to check the forwards, and I showed in the watch list at the start as well. These were the guys I mentioned in the last video. I think the same things that I mentioned in the last video apply. If you wanted to see what I mentioned, go check the last video. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and I'll see you all obviously for the deadline stream tomorrow. And yeah, if you have any comments, let me know in the comments and I'll answer each and every one of them. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.